Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we're talking about why being the villain is just too easy. Recently, I had a very close friend who had a very bad breakup, and after it, they were telling me, you know what? Everyone treats me like garbage. I'm just gonna do the same. And I said to them, no, being the villain is just too easy. And it's really true. I don't know if any of you have seen The Vampire Diaries, but essentially, if you haven't, it's a show about vampires. And one of the things the vampires can do is they can like turn off their humanity and they just become killing machines. You know, they don't really recognize any of their friends or close people in their lives, and they're just vicious. And I said to this friend, you know, you don't just get to turn off your humanity. You don't just get to like become a monster and join the rest of them. Just because you've been spurned, just because you've had like a tragic backstory or like one of these villain moments where a villain is created, does not mean that you have to give into that. And you will always regret being in your villain era. Lots of people talk about it as though they're like, oh, I'm in my villain era. I'm taking names and I don't care about who I run over, and I'm just gonna live in that like joy of being a bad guy. And recently in our culture with shows like Harley Quinn and the Joker, we've sort of what's the word, exemplified or honored villains and their stories. And it's true that in a lot of the old Disney movies, the most interesting character is usually the villain. If you watch the old Disney Hercules movie, Hades is hilarious and he's super funny. And, you know, most of the villains are really interesting characters. I think the first one that I really think of that affected the whole generation was Maleficent, where the live action thing with Angelina Jolie, where they kind of made her into this like downtrodden, hurt character who then goes off and hurts other people. And they kind of turned her into a superhero, essentially. And you see this in the Marvel movies and all of these things where we are kind of honoring and really revering our villains, which is crazy because they're bad people. They have done bad things. They hurt people. And to sort of honor them or even just try and look at their perspective is kind of really like sick and twisted in some ways. And I mean, it's the same with like horror movies and that sort of thing. We kind of root for the bad guy to get the annoying teenagers. So it's this really alluring idea. It's this alluring idea of, you know, instead of being the group of people huddled around the campfire, we're the monster lurking in the trees. And I think a lot of people kind of like this idea because we identify as outsiders, we identify as people who just don't fit the mold, and it can be really appealing to sort of see yourself as a villain, as the bad guy, as the one that blows up the institution at the end of the movie or whatever. But in actual practice, in real life, when the movie stops and you go home, being the villain is a terrible, terrible idea. You know, it has been romanticized and revered and made as this like really interesting idea of, oh yeah, I'm the bad guy, I'm the villain. Billie Eilish's Bad Guy, the song, is a great way of exemplifying how cool it would be to be the villain. When in actuality, you just make people cry, you make people feel less than, you make people feel like they're the outsider, you are the source of people's anxiety. And that's not cool. That's never okay. It's never okay to bully someone, even if they are a bully. It is never okay. There was that quote, and I think it was Hillary Clinton that said it, is when they go low, you go high. And, you know, she was like made so much fun of for that. I'm not trying to get political or anything, but I do think of that quote a lot. Like when they go low, you go high. That's the way to be. I'm sorry, but it is. And if you think that you're going to have this villain arc, this moment of being a villain, you're going to turn your humanity off, you're going to be the interesting villain with the backstory that's really intriguing, that was hurt and now hurts people, just ask yourself if it's really worth it. Because at some point, hopefully in your life, you will look back and go, man, I was a real jerk to the people in my life. I was a real jerk to the random people I saw on the street, to the barista making my coffee. There was no need to be a jerk. There was no need to bring added negativity into the world, because the world is negative enough. We need more positivity to fight back. And this friend was going on about this breakup and, oh, I'm just going to run people over now. I just don't care. And I was saying, no, that is the exact wrong thing to do. The best thing to do to get over when you were hurt by someone is to go and make other people's lives better. They have scientifically proven that people who focus on volunteering, people who focus on, tutoring and mentorship and programs that help people, help others than yourself, statistically have a lot less depression, are just generally better people. And I think that is so important. Helping other people is one of humanity's greatest characteristics, being kind to nature, to other animals, to ourselves, to other people. That is the best way to get over being hurt by someone else. And many of the villains that we love to watch on television and film don't do that. They get hurt by someone and then they decide to go and hurt other people who had no connection to it. Sometimes these villains are going for revenge, but a lot of times these villains go after innocent people, and that's never okay. It's never okay to go after someone who's never wronged you, who was just there walking down the street and then happened to get hit by a bus because you were spiteful. And if you can think of it like that, you were doing a good job, because it is so easy to regret your past mistakes and go, man, why was I such a jerk in high school? And maybe your home life was bad. Maybe this, that, and the other. We always talk about how bullies bully people because they're being bullied or there's something in their life that they need to project. But that's exactly what villains do. That's exactly the problem, is they have something that happens to them that turns them into a spiteful person. And then they go after everyone else. And everyone else wasn't the cause of it. Like, everyone else they weren't the problem. And I really think that the whole idea of having like a villain era, or, seeking revenge, or just going after random people who weren't involved, that's such a bad move. It's so short-sighted, because you will always look back on it and go, that was not my best work. And even as a good example, at the beginning, I talked about the Vampire Diaries and how they turn off their humanity. Every single character that turns their humanity off eventually turns it back on and looks back at what they've done and kind of loses it. Every single one of them gets this wave of guilt and sadness and grief about what they've done while their humanity was off. That, I think, is such a beautiful way of explaining it is never okay to hurt people. It is never okay to enjoy your villain era. If your villain era could involve just going off on your own, focusing on your goals, doing your own thing, ignoring when people reach out, okay, that's fine. That's a good villain era, where you're not actually hurting other people, where you're not actually deciding to run people over or, just be a jerk. That's great. If you want to call that your villain era and you go off and you improve yourself, you focus on your body, your health, your mind, your spiritual side, great. Call that a villain era, go off. But if you think you're going to get hurt by somebody and you're going to go off and just be a jerk to everyone and say like, oh, get out of my way. No, you're just being a jerk. Okay. And we don't need more of those on this planet. We got plenty. So that's my idea. It can be really hard when you're hurt by someone or something to not want to take it out on the rest of the world, but the rest of the world wasn't involved. It's a fact. So let me know what you think about this whole idea of having a villain arc, a villain era, and becoming a baddie or whatever they say. I don't know. It's so ridiculous. But let me know what you think. And I hope you're having a beautiful day, month, week, year, millennium, whatever you're having. I hope it's amazing. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.